Autobiography of C.H. Spurgeon, Volume 3, Chapter 74, A Traveler's Letters Home, continued. This morning we drove through Naples for, I should think, 6 or 7 miles or more. It is a crowded city full of stirs, full of business, and full of pleasure. Horses seem innumerable. They are decorated profusely, and the carriages are very comfortable. But I am sorry to say the men drive fiercely and make me very nervous. Old women are numerous and hideous, beggars and dealers intensely persevering. But what a bay, what a sea and climate. No one ought to be ill here. We have been over the museum, full of frescoes from Pompeii, gleanings from the catacombs, pickings from the Appian Way, stealings from the baths of Carcassia and other places. Naples has taken away from Rome the best of the ancient statuaries and treasures, and prepared a vast museum for the spoils. We saw thousands of precious things, enough for a year's inspection, but the Pompeian remains were the most important. There were surgical instruments exactly like those of the present day, cottage loaves of bread, stewpans, colanders, and all cookery things just like our own. The safes for money are just old plate chests. They were cotton, silk, and thread, in sinews and hanks, and large knitting boxes. Indeed, the people then had all we have now, even earthen money boxes with a slit in the top, just as the children have in our country villages. There were plenty of proofs that the people were sinners, and of a scarlet dye too. It was curious to see the colors in the painter's shop, the bottles and drugs of a chemist, and the tools of other trades. We saw also a splendid collection of ancient gems and cameos, most costly and lovely. I never saw so many gathered together before. We drove from the museum to the site of a new field of lava, which flowed down from Vesuvius last April. It was just beyond the houses of suburban Naples, and was very different from what I had expected. It had crossed our road and passed on through a vineyard. This was one tongue of the stream. Then we crossed a second by a road made near it, and came to a village through which the large steam had burned its way. It is a huge incandescent sea of the outflow of the volcano. Men were blasting and using pickaxes to open the road which the flood had completely blocked. We were soon upon the lava. It was a surface like a heap of ashes, supposing that every ash should weigh a ton or two. It is still hot and in some places smoking. I should have investigated it carefully and with interest. Only a horde of children, beggars, and women with babies gave us no rest, but continued crying and imploring alms and offering up pieces broken up of the masses. Much of this strange material is far too hot to hold, and our feet felt the heat as we walked across the surface. The steam was partly destroyed several houses and cut the village in two. People are living in the half of a house which stands, and the other half being burned or filled up with the molten substance. Vesuvius, high above us, is only giving out a little smoke and seems quiet enough. As I could never climb up to the crater, I think we should be content to have seen this lava turn. Our hotel here is vast and empty. We have excellent rooms and are thoroughly comfortable. There is music continually, and very fair music too, though not so sweet as silent. Everybody makes all the noise possible, and quiet dwells beyond the sea. Rome is a scepter. This city seems like life. We are not out of the door a moment before you are entreated to have a carriage, buy fruit, fish, pictures, papers, or something. The side streets swarm with people who appear to live in them. There they eat, cook, work, catch fleas, hunt over each other's heads like so many monkeys, etc., etc. It is like living in a museum. But as to the beauty and gracefulness of which we read so much, I cannot detect it, though really looking for it. Persons over 40 look worn out, and females at that age are haggard. Over the period, they are ghastly and mummified. Macaroni hangs out in some quarters before the doors on lines to dry, and the flies, which are numerous upon it, give it anything but an attractive appearance. Tomorrow we hope to go to Pompeii. I am now thinking about next month's magazine, and devoutly wish I could light upon a subject for an article, but my brain is dull. We have seen Pompeii. We drove there, and it took us 3 hours, almost all of it, between long lines of houses like one continuous street. At the town of Resina, we passed Herculaneum, but it did not enter it, as Pompeii is worth more to see. Then we went through a town which has, I think, been 7 times destroyed by Vesuvius and is now crowded with people. There we saw the lava by the side of it, and under the houses, hard as a rock, the roads are generally paved with great flags of the same material. Though driving by the shore of the bay, we seldom saw the water, for even where there was no town, there was high walls, and worst of all, off the stones the white dust was suffocating and made us look like millers. However, we reached Pompeii at last, and I can only say, in a sentence, it exceeds in interest all I have seen before, even in Rome. I walked on and on and on, from 12 to 4 o'clock, lost in wonder amidst the miles of streets of this buried city, now silent and open to the gazer's eye. To convey a little worthy idea of it to you would be impossible, even in a ream of paper. We entered at the Street of Tombs, which was outside the gate. In it were houses, shops, taverns, a fountain, and several tombs. The house of Diomed greatly interested us. We went upstairs and downstairs, and then into the cellar, where were still the wine bottles leaning against the wall in rows, the pointed end being stuck into the ground, and the rows still together in dry dust, in exactly the same way as we place articles in sawdust. In the cellars we found 18 skeletons of women who had fled there for shelter. The photograph I send shows the garden, which covered walk round it, and tank for live fish. In this street were several places for seats in the shade, made in great semicircles so that a score of persons could rest at once. Near the gate was the niche where the soldier was found who kept his watch while others fled. We could not think of going up and down all the streets, so it would need many days to see all. The city was, I should think, a watering place for the wealthy. No poor class of houses has yet been discovered. It was paved with great slabs of stone, which were worn deeply with cart or chariot wheels. Across the streets were huge stepping stones, just wide enough to allow wheels to go on each side. But either you had no horses to the cars in the streets, or else you must have trained to step over. In some places were horses' blocks. In others, there were holes in the curbstone to pass a rope through to tie up a horse. The houses were many of them palaces, and contained great treasures of art, which are now in museums, but enough is left in each case to show what they were. Frescoes remain in abundancy, and grottos and great fountains and marble terraces for cascades of water. It is a world of wonder. In one part of the city, a noble owner had let the corner of his house to a vendor of warm wines, and there is his marble counter, with the holes therein for his warming pots. Strains of wine were on the counter when it was first uncovered. We saw the black parlor of the drinking shop, with pictures on the wall of a decidedly non-teetotaler character. There were several bakers' shops with hand mills, the tops of which turned round on a stone, and ground well, no doubt. In one we saw the oven, with a water jar near it. In this place we found 183 loaves of bread. In the doctors' and chemists' shops, when open, we saw the medicines as they were when entombed, and even pills left in the process of rolling. In the custom house were standard weights and measures. Soap factories had their evaporating pans remaining. Oil vessels abound, and in one, made of glass, some of the oil may still be seen. Cook shops had in them all the stewpans and other necessities of the trade. We saw jeweler shops, artist studios, the streets of grocers and drapers' shops, many with signs over their doors. The baths impressed me much, for they had been newly built when the awful tragedy took place, and look as if they were opened yesterday. A fine, cold plunge bath, with water carried high for a shower, a dressing room for niches, with brushes, combs, all of which were there, but they have been removed to museums, and a great brazier in green bronze with seats round it for the bathers to dry themselves, a warm bath and a vapor bath, all perfect and looking ready for use tomorrow. The forum was vast and had in it sides of several magnificent temples, the remains of which reveal their former glory. The pedestals of the statues of the eminent men of the town remain with their names upon it. We saw the tragedy and comic theaters and the amphitheaters which held 20,000 persons, in which the people were assembled when the eruption came, and from which they escaped, but had to flee to the fields and leave their houses forever. In the Temple of Isles, we saw the places where the priests were concealed when they made the goddess deliver her oracles. We saw the lady herself in the museum with a pipe at the back of her head, which was fixed to the wall and served as a secret speaking tube. The priests of Isles were found dead at her shrine. One of them with an axe had cut through 2 walls to get out, but had not succeeded, poor creature. In a money changer's house we saw his skeleton, lying on its face, with outstretched arms and hands. Much money was found near him. In the barracks were 63 persons, soldiers, and officers' wives. Here were the stocks which had been used for the punishment of the refractory soldiers. In the Street of Mercury is a triumphant arch, on which stood a statue of Nero, found nearly perfect. Here, too, we noted a drinking fountain and a house with its exterior richly adorned with red frescoes. In a vast hall of justice were cells under the magistrate's bench, and in these 3 prisoners were found inside an iron ring which went round their waist. They were perhaps waiting to be brought up before the alderman for some misdemeanor and expecting to be fined 500 shillings in costs, but they perished like their betters and were summoned before a higher tribune. Out of so great a city, I suppose, comparatively, few were destroyed, so as the bodies of these are found. They are preserved, especially if everything remarkable is to be seen in connection with them. We saw the digging still going on, and the mounds of removed rubbish were like high railway embankments. No roofs remain, but spouts for rainwater were there in great abundance. There are in the form of dogs and lion heads and other quaint devices. No stables have yet been uncovered, but the carts which stood at the inn doors have left their iron tires, skeletons of the horses and their bits, to bear witness to their former existence. Skeletons of dogs and cats were there, and in a pan was a sucking pig prepared and just ready for roasting. I saw also a pot on a tripod or trivet, which, when discovered, actually had water in it. I feel ashamed to write so badly of such a theme, but I cannot do better. It is too vast a task for me, and I fail to recollect a tithe of it. I must cease writing tonight, but I continue to breathe loving assurances to my sweet wifey. We have been in a steamer to the island of Capri, calling at Sorrento on the way. The glorious excursion, but we failed in our great object, which was to see the Blue Grotto. The sea was too rough to permit entrance, as the opening is only 3 feet high, and no one can get in except during smooth water and when the wind is from a certain quarter. However, we stayed a couple of hours on the island, which is precipitous, so I did not climb, but sat on a balcony, enjoying the marvelous scene. We reached Naples late, for the boat was slow, but first the sunset and then the moonlight gave us 2 charming effects, to which Vesuvius added by smoking almost continuously. This little trip served as a pleasant rest and refreshment after the toil and dust of Pompeii. Today we have had a long and splendid drive on the other side of the bay, first along the quay, then through a tunnel almost half a mile long, and then skirting the bay by road to Puteoli, where Paul landed. We saw the spot, as is supposed, and the commencement of the Appian Way, which we followed till we reached Rome. At Puteoli, we first went into the crater of the Solfatara, a semi-extinct volcano, which has not been in eruption since 1198, when it destroyed ancient Puteoli, It is grown over with shrubs and small trees. A man throws down a big stone, which makes it all sound and shows you that the whole vast area is hollow. You are led to a great hole in the side of the hill, whence pours out from the roar of the engine blowing out steam a great quantity of sulphurous vapor. All around is brimstone. With a long kind of hoe, a man rakes out bits from the mouth of the huge oven. The ground is very hot, and an odor which is anything but dainty prevails. You can go right up to it with perfect ease and safety. The vapor is said to cure gout, but one must stand in it some time every day for a month. When Vesuvius is furious, Solfatara, subsides, so there seems good evidence that the two, though 12 miles apart, are vents of the same fires. We looked down on the temple of Serapis. It has been up and down and in and out of the sea several times, as the restless coast has risen or fallen. It is now out of water, but is remarkable rather for its history than for its present beauty. We drove on by the crater of Monte Barbio and then on to Monte Nuovo. This last volcano sprang up in the night in 1538, covered a village, stopped a great canal, and did no end of mischief. But since then it has been quiet and allowed itself to furnish soil enough for brushwood, which makes it look like a great pyramid. In the other side of this hill is the famous lake of Avernus, of which Virgil wrote, and by the side of which he placed the entrance to Hades. The dense woods which smother it has been cut down, and it has by no means a repulsive appearance now. But it is a channel for the escape of noxious gases, and is no doubt the crater of a volcano. We did not enter the Cibus cave and otherwise inquire of Pluto and Proserpine, but crossed and drove on to the ruined city of Cumae, to the lake of Fusaro. Here oysters are cultivated till the lake gave out vapors and killed the bivalves. The water has become pure again and the industry has commenced. Passing through Virgil's fields and manifold wonders, we came to the village of Bacola. Here we left the carriage and ascended the hill to see what is called the Piscinamirabilis, the vast underground reservoir, which once contained water brought by the Julian aqueduct from some 50 miles distance. It is dry now, and we descended a long flight of stairs to the bottom. It has a roof supported by 48 huge columns. It is 220 feet long and 82 feet broad. There are traces of water having filled it up to the spring of the arches, and the place where the water entered is very plainly to be seen. There are great openings in the roof, down which hang creeping plants. The place was very chilly, and coming up 40 steps out of it seemed like leaving a scepter. Yet it was a sight to be remembered to one's dying day. We descended through the foul and loathsome village street, where cholera may well rage in summer. We could not explore villas of Caesars, prisons of Nero, villas of Agrippa, and other places where we were tired, and felt afraid of more vaults and their horrible damps. So we went to the inn and had some poor would-be oysters, bread and butter, and green lemons freshly gathered from the tree. The view was glorious indeed, nothing could excel it. Great ruined temples and villas were everywhere and made a picture of exceeding beauty. Tomorrow will be the Sabbath, and in this I rejoice, for rest is sweet, and sweetest when made holiness to the Lord. I send tons of love to you, hot as fresh lava. God bless you with His best blessing. It is the Sabbath, quiet and restful. We have had a delightful service, and I have written for 4 of my notebooks in the magazine, so there will be a little less for my dear one, but there is nothing new to tell. I have been so grandly well all this time that I do not know how to be grateful enough, and my heart is light because you are better. My soul is at rest, my spirit leaps. I am indeed a debtor to Him who restoreth my soul. Blessed be His holy name forever and ever. We are very quiet, for there are no other visitors in the house. We have the best rooms, nice beds, well curtained from mosquitoes. There is a house between us and the sea, but we can see the bay on each side of us, and Vesuvius if we go out on the balcony. The climate is like heaven below, and cannot but be a medicine to the sick. I sent you a photograph of a slave we found in Pompeii, close behind his master, and carrying a bag of money, both of them endeavoring to escape. It was a perfect model, covered with incrustations. I have also sent a photograph of a grotto, or rather ancient fountain in mosaic, which is in one of the houses. They used to put a lamp inside the heads. Water fell in a little cascade behind the steps. It seems an odd taste, but there are several such in the gardens of the buried villas. Tomorrow we hope to be traveling. God will be with thee, mine own, and give thee peace and healing. My heart is everywhere and ever thine. Geneva. We left Florence on Friday, and the day was fine, so that we greatly enjoyed the journey over the mountains to Bologna. Then it is a dull road to Alexandria, which we reached about 6 o'clock. Thence to Geneva. Should take 2 hours and a half, but in ascending the Maritime Alps, there was snow, and the engine crawled along and at last stopped altogether. Think of it, going uphill and stopping. The steam was put on, and the wheels revolved, sending out a shower of sparks, but the train did not stir. Then came with spades to clear away some snow, and after a while the carriages moved. We gained the top of the hill and ran down all right, getting into Geneva about 10 p.m. A long, tiresome day. Here, where we were so comfortable last year, we were marched up 4 sets of stairs and then showed into rooms which had a most offensive smell. The house was full, the waiter said, and they could not give us no other rooms. We replied, well then, we will go somewhere else. And when we had carried all our luggage to the door, apartments were found for us on the first floor. This morning, expecting to leave for Mentone at 12 o'clock, we heard that the line is broken in 4 places, and no train goes except at 8 a.m. So we are here till Monday. It rains, and has rained all night in torrents. We must wait and then go on in great uncertainty and sure discomfort. Never mind. It will serve me for illustration, no doubt. Dr. Jobson, a Wesleyan minister, has had an hour's happy chat with me and very much interested me. He is a wholly liberal-hearted soul, and we enjoyed a conversation together. So it is not all dullness. It is beginning to clear up while I am writing, so perhaps we may get a walk. I have had restful nights this week, and am still very much better, for the damp and cold try me a good deal. Sabbath, this day, which we will have been forced to spend here, has not been an unhappy one, but a sweet day, most calm and bright. The rain cleared off yesterday about 4 o'clock, enabling us to wander through the narrow streets of Genoa, La Supera, and to enter several of the churches. My indignation was stirred beyond measure when, upon looking into the confessional boxes, I read the directions to the priests as to the question he should ask the penitents. It was printed in Latin and referred to those unmentionable crimes which brought fire upon Sodom and of the curse of heathendom. I seen young maidens kneel down to be asked such questions as these, made me wish that every priest could be cut off from the face of the earth as unfit to live. And I most deliberately invoked upon them all the righteous vengeance of an insulted God. Since I came away, my more sober reflections fully endorse my indignant wrath. How can the Lord endure all this? Truly his patience is great. Today we had our breaking of bread, and Dr. Jobson and his wife joined us. The good old man spoke most sweetly and prayed for you, with great pathos and much faith, that the Lord would yet heal you. He shamed me by his faith, and I blessed him for his tender affection. The Lord was with us, and the season will be memorable to us all. Then I revisited a sermon, which is not quite finished yet. But the table bell is ringing, so I must needs pause a while and allow the body to feed in its turn. Today is fine and bright, and has been warm in the sun. We have large leads to walk on, and I have had a little turn there while the others have gone up on the heights for a walk. Tomorrow I hope to be equally clear, and then we shall not mind the getting out and in where the railway is broken. Table the hotel is now over, and I have had the old doctor in for a talk, though I wanted to be alone and go on with my sermon and letters. However, the good soul is gone now, and I can get to my dear work of communing with my darling by the pen. Every memory of you is full of joy except your illness, and that makes me love you all the more by adding sympathy. I am alone. I am afraid. I am still a rough, forgetful being, so apt to get absorbed in my work and to think too little of you. But this is not in my heart, but is in my nature, and I suppose if it were not there, I could not do my work so successfully. You know and love me too well to judge as others would. We have to be off early in the morning, so I must close this note. Today, while I was lying on the beach and Mark Tapley was slyly filling our pockets with stones and rolling Mr. Passmore over, who should walk up but Mr. McLaren of Manchester, with whom I had a long and pleasant chat. We are to go to Monaco tomorrow together. He has 3 months' holiday. I am glad I have not, but I should wish I had, if I had my dear wife with me to enjoy it. Poor little soul, she must suffer while I ramble. 2 clergymen have had a long talk with me this evening. It began by one saying aloud to the other, I hear Mr. Spurgeon has been here. This caused a titter around the table, for I was sitting opposite of him. Mentone is charming, but not very warm. It is as I like it, and it is calculated to make a sick man leap with health. How I wish you could be here. The two persons here are High Church and Low Church, and I have had a talk with both. Just before dinner, who should go by the Earl of Shaftesbury, with whom I had half-hour converse. He was very low in spirit and talked as if all things in the world were going wrong. But I reminded him that our God was yet alive, and that dark days were only the signs of better times coming. He is a real nobleman and man of God. Everybody in the hotel is courteous and kind, and I should have quite a circle of acquaintances already. I have enjoyed the rest very much, but young married couples remind me of our early days and the cloud which covers us now. Still, he who sent both sun and shade is our ever-tender Father and knows best. And if it be good for us, he can restore all that he has withdrawn and more. And if not, he designs our yet greater good. There is nothing more to write except the ever-true and never-tiresome message. My perfect love be with thee, and the Lord's love be over thee forever. If a few more days I shall see thee, and it will be a fairer sight than any my eyes have rested on during my absence. Today, Mr. and Mrs. Mueller went with me to Dr. Bennett's garden, and I had a most profitable conversation with him, one to be remembered for many a day with delight. Dr. Bennett came up, and I was amused to hear Mueller teaching him the power of prayer and recommending him to pray about one of the terraces which he wants to buy, but the owner asked 100 times its value. Dr. B. thought it was too trifling a matter to take it to the Lord. He said that Mr. Mueller might very properly pray about the orphanage, but as to this terrace, to complete his garden, he thought he could not make out a good cause about it. Mr. M. said it encouraged people in sin if we yielded to covenant demands. So he thought that the doctor might pray that the owners should be kept from exorbitant claims. But Mr. B. said that, as ignorant peasants, they were very excusable for trying either to keep their land or to get all they could from an Englishman whom they imagined to be a living gold mine. The spirit of both was good, but, of course, the simple childlike holy trust of Mueller was overpowering. He was not a sanctimonious person, but full of real joy and sweet peace and innocent pleasure. Niece, in this place we have been up 4 flights of stairs, and alas, into very cold rooms. I woke in the night and felt as if I was freezing in a vault, and my ankles were in great pain. I was much cast down, and on getting out of bed, found the carpet and floor both very damp. I had a very bad night, and am now in much pain in the left foot. Yet I believe I shall get over it soon, and I mean to have no more of these climbing upstairs and sleeping in horrid cells. Nice is a very great place, and I am sorry we left Mentone to come to it. But I must not write in a grumbling vein. Here have I had nearly 5 weeks of good health, and have grown stronger every day. Why should I care for one little relapse? We will be off to Canis and Hyères, and see what God has in store for us. He will deal graciously with me, as he ever has done. 2 days later, I have had a heavy time of pain, my dearest, but am now better. God has changed the weather. Yesterday was warm, today is hot. So we think it best to hurry on, and if possible, come right through to Paris. I feel well in myself, but the knee will not bear me, though I think I should be as strong as a horse after a day or 2 of this weather. How much I have to thank the Lord for. Such kind friends, they have proved their love beyond all praise. I was never alone. I hope now to get home in time for Sunday. My soul loves you and longs to see you. Paris. In the hope that one more better may reach you before I come personally, I give myself the delight of writing it. The telegram, we have told you that at the very prudent advice of the doctor I left Canis at 3:15 on Tuesday, in a couplet to travel direct to Paris. It has proved a very wise step. A lady lent her bath chair to take me to the station, and porters lifted me into the carriage. There I had a nice sofa bed and every convenience. I lay there with great comfort till we reached Marseilles. Then came the night, and I had hoped to sleep, but the extreme oscillation of the train quite prevented that. Once only I dozed for a few minutes, yet I was kept restful till 6 o'clock, when my dear friends got me some warm soap, and I had a refreshing wash. Then all day long I was at peace till 6 p.m. From Lyons the country is flooded all along the road. We seemed to ride through a vast river. I naturally felt the chill of this, and my knees complained. Near Paris it rained hard, and at Paris heavily. After much stress and difficulty, I was put into a cab, and we drove to this hotel. I went to bed immediately and slept on and on and on till 8 o'clock the next morning, awakening then refreshed and happily, none the worse for the long journey. I meant to stay in bed all day, and sent my friends out so that I might not always be a drag upon them. But at about noon I rose up and dressed, and when they came in, I had flown to a sitting room and a sofa by a cozy fire. I can walk now a little, and hope to be all right for Sunday. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and may He bless thee too, my dear heart of love. I hope to have a coop and tomorrow lie down again while traveling, and so home to my tender wifey. Who could hope to escape rheumatic pain when all the world is wet through to this center? It must not grieve you that I suffer, but you must rejoice that I escaped so long, while even rocks might feel this marvelous, long-continued wetting. I am indeed grateful to God for His goodness. Still, there's no place like home. This brings great loads of love, all flaming. God bless thee ever. Carriage at Victoria, 5:45 Friday. End of chapter 74.